What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin price chart as the price sits at $52,375, just a tick shy below the 702 Fibonacci retracement, which sits just a little bit above $53,000. At the same time, we're going to take a look over here at the altcoin market, which just last week was able to finally escape from the range that it's been stuck in for 2 months, along with taking a look at everybody's favorite, the XRP price chart, along with Ethereum, which was able to get through its 50% retracement level in the final hours of the trading week last week. Of course, we'll tie in all of this stock market craziness with them sitting at their 4.236 extensions, while reflecting on where we've come from in this market and what a journey it's been to get back to this level. Unquestionably, a rough 2022 and 2023 with so many market participants thinking that we could not retrace in here. We're finally there. We're literally living in the moment today as we sit right back here, right near the 702 Fibonacci retracement. As always anticipated that once we got here, that the excitement would return, the doubt, the wall of worry would get climbed until finally they all lay down the wall of worry once we get back to the retracement levels. But now it's about trying to kind of paint the whole picture on whichever direction this thing decides to go from here. My thesis for all of 2022 and 2023 and my ability to remain strong on having that belief is that markets don't tend to go in a straight line down forever. They tend to go back into a retracement. And then when you get back to a retracement, the question then remains of, will we only retrace or will we go beyond the retracements? I think a lot of people do find it difficult to believe or offensive for me to say, I think there's more trouble here at these retracement levels, whether it's the higher ones or the lower ones. I think they find offense to that rather than 4-year cycles. This thing goes on for forever. And it's mainly because I've presented the case from the very beginning of this YouTube channel that Bitcoin tends to follow the stock market. And the cold, hard reality is of just where the stock market is right now, as both the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones both sit up there at those 4.236 extensions. And as we all know, this is how high the roaring 20s went nearly 100 years ago before it completely ran out of juice. Now, the point of this video is not going to be, oh, gloom and doom for crypto. I'm actually still very optimistic over here on this altcoin market, and the market has continued to flash positive signs. Even XRP behaving exactly like I'd hoped to, right, through the last 2 months. I'll show you that here in a second. But with Bitcoin sitting here at the 702 retracement, I also thought it was important to go back for those who maybe are thinking, who is this guy? He just wants to be the new villain. He wants to be the new bad guy. Totally not the case. Tried to rally sentiment for the last year and a half to get us back here. It's just that most people couldn't come along until you get to the retracements. And that's just a normal psychological behavior. But to understand where we are right now, I really wanted to go back in time and just kind of show you where we came from, what the thoughts were looking ahead. And this is a video titled First Trading Day of 2023. It was published here on January 3rd of 2023. It's got 24,000 views, one of the lower view counts for my channel. If you remember what was going on in January of 2023, we were just coming off of the FTX collapse. Sentiment was in the gutter. Solana just hit like $8. This is at the point where crypto is a complete laughing stock. We've just come off of Luna, UST, Celsius, 3 Arrows Capital. Now we've got FTX. We're wrecked. We're destroyed. There's no hope. Bitcoin's right there on January 3rd. And while I think the whole video is worth watching, we'll take a look at a couple of clips right in here just to kind of understand what we were heading into and what we were looking forward to in the market. We'll start right here talking about the United States stock market. So in here, we're going to talk about the Dow Jones. Zooming out on the Dow Jones, of course, a move of 250 points to the upside and then a move of 300 points to the downside isn't setting the tone or the trend for the entire year. But I think the bigger question for like the stock market, right, and does that impact the cryptocurrency market? But like looking at the Dow Jones and saying, well, what is the story going to be for the Dow Jones this year and for the stock market? And of course, I've shown time and time again how you can go into retracement levels, and that ends up being it. That is the end of the story. Then the gig is up. The issue is everybody wants to know about time. How long is it going to take? When's it going to happen, right? And absolutely nothing about charts will ever predict time for you. You could essentially head all the way back here and then head up and have a C leg and then eventually roll over. And that can take, a year, 2 years, or end of the world, as we've been seeing happening over here for Tesla. But of course, I have no way to, with 100% certainty, predict what will actually happen with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, except to say that every time this structure has happened that I have seen, this has marked the actual top. What are some of the conflictions with that? Is that if we look at how high the Dow Jones has actually gone, it has come up shy of a 4.236 extension. Is there ever an example of where we can go back into retracement levels like this, meander, fall again, then go on and hit it, and then go into lights out? Sure, that's exactly how Bitcoin did it, right? Bitcoin's 2020 and 21 bull run came up shy of the 4.236 extension, fell, retraced. After going back into that retracement, where did it get to? Just about the 702 Fibonacci retracement. Markets pulled back with an ABC in here to then go on and have its final extension to reach out and touch that 4.236. Then the lights went out. So if you look at historical context of what happens at these retracement levels, which is what we talked about for all of 2022, is to finally get back in there. Once you get back in there, that's where everything gets really complicated on what's going to come in next. If I had to make my best guess of every scenario I can come up with, it would still be that there's still more down action to happen here in the Dow Jones for the stock market. But then once we got down in there to see how the market reacts from here, does it start setting itself up like we've seen where it goes to hit that extension? Does it really just plow through these levels and head lower? Or do we start making a structure that starts to look like an ABC correction that still tops itself out in here to then roll over? But right now, it's still just kind of like waiting for this thing to, whether it's got to pop up and then come down or come down and then go up. Every scenario I can come up with still says that we head down some more here in the Dow Jones. Question is, will crypto follow along? Ever since the FTX collapse happened, in which crypto broke away from the stock market as this occurred, in topping structures of markets, especially like we've seen in the cryptocurrency market in the past, these are the levels where lots of rotational plays can happen in markets. So we're talking about all this stuff happening in the opening bell of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I'm just not super convinced that even if we went up 300 or 400 points, 500 points, or if we go down 300, 400 points, that it really makes a whole big difference on what the tone of the whole year will be. I think the tone of the whole year actually gets set once we kind of pull back a little bit further in the Dow, and then we get more of a clear picture on where to head to from there. And so here we are now, no longer watching the video from January 3rd, but here we are in February of 2024. I've got this on replay now just to give an idea. The discussion was that we would head back down into these levels before we could set the tone for the year for the Dow. And as we can see, just as anticipated, there's an A, B, C correction that shows up in those price levels, right? As recalled and shown there for Bitcoin, that's exactly what we had in here. You ended up having an A, B, C correction that reversed itself, which is what we saw happen over here in the Dow Jones. We all know the rest of the year, right? Ended up being a good year. Still, like I said, it could hang out here for a year or two. Sure enough, it did. It hung out there really most of the year until really right there at the end. And then, as said, watching how it reacts at those levels to see, could it go on and hit the 4.236 extension? And how about that? Very close. And as we've shown, the NASDAQ has gotten there. All the while, Bitcoin goes back to its 702 retracement at the exact time that the NASDAQ gets there and the Dow nearly gets there. So to be like, hey, you know that thing we talked about a long time ago with the stock market and all that research and all those videos we've done of the correlation between the stock market and Bitcoin and how they're totally correlated assets to each other? Well, that asset that Bitcoin is correlated to, it's at a very concerning price level. And we've been talking about this for a long time. And we're also at that price level that we always talked about, the 702 Fibonacci retracement. You know, the one in the intro of my YouTube channel? Yeah, we're there. Now, I won't go through this whole video. I'm really not here to gloat. If you go through here, you'll see I bought the bottom of Solana, gave my case as to why I was buying it. We're talking between $7 and $13. That's all in this video. Then we're talking about the reversal coming out of Bitcoin and what it would actually look like in here. So let's play that really fast. As for looking at Bitcoin and looking at Ethereum, the things we've been looking at as we were wrapping up last year was getting off the top of that resistance level there for Ethereum. The story was the exact same for Bitcoin. Pulling down, we were looking for volatility to dry up and for us to just go that way. We're still continuing to do that, and these things can go on for a little while. So I'm glad to say at least it's doing this still. As I've shown in lots of the examples, these things can go on for some time in here. Still just a waiting game over here on Ethereum, which has been one of the ones that has held up the strongest in all of this downturn, has been Ethereum in here. As for Bitcoin, it's doing exactly the same thing, and nothing has changed in regards to just traveling sideways as we've been anticipating. If this is the phase that I'm hoping that we're in within this market, it will just kind of continue doing this. And when these things end, they end in dramatic fashion. It does not usually end with, hey, we just kind of keep grinding our way up here really slowly. It ends with something quick happening. Let's go ahead and take a look at how things played out. It did that, continued sideways until finally, whoop. And as we all know, that ended up being the bottom of Bitcoin, which was all right back in here. But again, the point of this is to not be a braggart. It's to show that, one, I've been here throughout all of this. And two, for those who are just tuning in, thinking that I want to be the next villain, this has always been the area. This is right on brand for me to do this at this area. And then you look for confluences throughout the market to say, are other things happening while you're at that exact same area? And it's like, well, sure enough, you're at a 4.236 extension. And sure enough, we talked about that type of scenario happening over a year ago. And then you say, well, is it Bitcoin ETFs that are causing all of this to happen? Is this time different? Then you look at the NASDAQ and you say, no, it's not different. All of these breakouts are happening all at the same time. The correlation of the top, the bottoms, everything is still right on cue. And the price breakouts are all happening at the exact same time. So no, till this point, it is still acting right in line with the movements happening over there in the stock market. So no matter what, I have to risk manage here. I have confluence of the stock market and I have confluence of my retracement level that I've talked about the entire time people were screaming for 12K. But I'm certainly ridiculously long over there in the altcoin market. If Bitcoin does break out through here, it doesn't matter to me. As a matter of fact, it would be great because it opens up the window for the altcoin market to not just have a nice little bull run, but it opens the door for a potential of a ballistic bull run. However, it's just not my base case. My base case is that there's actually going to be distribution that happens in here and that we actually end up having all of our altcoin run really going on throughout this time. In the event that Bitcoin goes through here, well, then watch out because it might get nuts. But it's not my base case. So really, the thing about altcoin runs, the thing about the market is that they tend to happen in two different places, right? They happen into retraces. They happen into breakout into new all-time highs for Bitcoin. But really, they're also like markers of the end. And that's what people don't really think about. And it's one of those things that I talk about, like, how can you be bullish on the altcoin market, but you're also talking about like, hey, like we're coming up on this scenario that looks like it's going to be really scary, especially when we're looking at things like this for the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones. And it's just understanding when the altcoins actually go and when they're all crazy and wild is that it always happens at the very end. That is the marker of the end of times. There becomes periods of irrational exuberance, extreme risk taking, extreme confidence. And like you just reflect back on the last year and a half and how we had to climb that wall of worry and how we had to finally get to a point to where people are absolutely bullish. Even the people who know that you're here, you waited a year and a half to get there. They've said, you know what? I said for a year and a half that I was going to take action right there, but I have decided that no, we are actually wicked bullish, right? Because sentiment has flipped, psychology flips, and that's all a good thing. That's an excitement thing. That means people want it, people are willing to take more risk. It's not like when you're at $16,000 for Bitcoin. Everybody's waiting for that little dip down to 12 because they've got to get just that tiny percentage. Now it doesn't matter. I can buy it. It doesn't matter if it pulls back. It's cool. I'm willing to take that risk. That if it has a negative 20% pull down, it doesn't matter to me, right? That little flip of psychology and care is just the kind of psychology of the market that you want to have. Because while the market has been going up for about 5 months, a lot of coins already got major jump starts that are already up hundreds of percentage points. But some stuff just hasn't been as crazy, right? I mean, we've got a 50% retracement over here for Ethereum. You're already up 232% off the lows just since October, up almost 100. Cardano is up 150. Hedera Hashgraph up 120. And some stuff still just lagging behind. But we've already seen a lot of stuff start to go. But when that cataclysmic thing, when everybody says, oh, it's now officially alt season, these things are already up hundreds of points. And then that's where you see that the craziness, the irrational behavior, and the extreme risk taking. And those things all happen when you're reaching either breakout for Bitcoin or you're reaching distribution top for Bitcoin. Just like we saw back over here, how the irrational wild time of the altcoin market comes in at the very end, right? Bitcoin has the first sell-off after Tesla buys Bitcoin, Elon Musk, right? First sell-off goes back up to the highs, still nothing yet from the altcoin market, crazy. And then we get a big pullback and it's right there at that moment. Boom, 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 boom. Big move up there for the altcoin market. And so if we are in that type of distribution, which I've shown last week, if you had something of that, where you've had kind of your first initial take, no ABC correction happening in here, just like you don't have that on that first leg, and then it shoots right back up, still has to correct down. And then we just continue into distribution and have all the chaos of the market happen in here, right? That's really where my mind is at right now when it comes to the market, on watching the scenario of us actually stopping out right here, right? If Bitcoiners who've suddenly become bullish all in the retracement levels end up being right and this thing goes, what do you think this thing is going to do? Do you think this thing's going to say, oh no, we're done? No, it'll go nuts, right? At least in all historical context it has. But in the event of topping out in here, what would it look like for those things to continue moving? And this would be a distribution schematic that would provide something like that to end up happening. Right. That's how it happens also back here in 2017 and 18 as well. Is that right? There's the first initial profit taking up there. And then notice everything goes crazy into those last two. But to always remember that this phase of a market where it's ballistic, where it's crazy, extremely wild, comes at the very end. But the narrative is never that. The narrative is always, this is just the beginning. And it's not. It's at the very end. The wild, crazy action is the signature ending finale of it all. The problem is we just go through years of trash and think that, well, it's finally happening, so it must continue on for forever. But as you can see in here, once the altcoin market breaks out, it was just a mere 93 days, and that was the end of the market, right? There's this other little high that gets put in here, but go check all your favorite altcoins. 90% of them all top right in here. Some of them topping before May, right? Like your Filecoin tops back here in March. Your XRP tops over here in April. But 90% of stuff all tops right in here upon that ending phase of the market. And so I know we talk about this in the manner of the end of times are near. And the end of times are near. But what typically comes right before the end of times? All of that irrational exuberance, all of that positive energy that came into the market, if this thing just stalls out in there and rotational action starts happening in here, that money is going to flood around. People who FOMO'd in here, people who FOMO'd in right in here, did not FOMO in because they have some firm belief in Bitcoin. They are just super big believers. They FOMO'd in because they thought they were going to get filthy rich off of it. The people who are like hardcore, diehard believers in Bitcoin, they just DCA'd the whole thing. These people did not. These people were getting washed out here, washed out here, washed out here, washed out, washed out. These people just want moon. And when they see moon happening elsewhere, they'll go to it. And if this thing does get through there, which again, I find incredibly unlikely, go check the historical behavior of the market. This would be the absolute worst place to be in. These guys are the ones who reap all the benefits. And it again comes down to the discussion of percentages mean everything. Price does not. We have reached a point where every $1,000 for Bitcoin is celebrated, even though $1,000 only represents 2%. If we hit $53,000, I promise you on Twitter, all the news networks, all the accounts who just say breaking news will say Bitcoin hits $53,000. But all this stuff, it's just like these percentages are nothing. H bar is up 13%. Imagine one day of Bitcoin doing 13%. It would be a massive, monstrous move. And people just the headlines become too much for people on this. But okay, we're done with that. I think we've talked enough about Bitcoin. You understand my thoughts, right? We're back at the 702 retracement. I'm looking for a distribution style structure. If I end up getting proven wrong with egg on my face and it goes up, guess what? I'm loaded up on altcoins. I will do just fine, but I'm primarily looking for a distribution to occur here for Bitcoin to not get tricked by it all because of what we have here and because the economic conditions of all of 3 Bitcoin bull runs from the past, which is 2013, 2017, 2021. There are ones even further back, but those 3 primarily are the ones that everybody talks about. Those 3, the economic conditions are not the same. However, we nailed it on the ride back up in here, and things like we talked about, the reverse repo has been the juice of this market. The top of Bitcoin is marked when the reverse repo opens. Bitcoin reverses upon the reversal of the reverse repo facility. As the reverse repo facility drains, Bitcoin rises into it. You started up here at 2.55 trillion. The thing's all the way down to only 500 billion. There's not much left in it. All right, moving on, talking about the altcoin market, Ethereum and XRPs. We're already at like 22 minutes into this thing. Others does escape from its range. The thing that I am mindful of with others, I've gone ahead and done videos on this. This is just like the sign of strength phase that happens in here on top of preliminary support. We have been doing just that over here on top of preliminary support with our sign of strength phase. But you just keep in mind there can still be some washing around happening in here before the excessive moves ends up coming into the market. That's the way I'm viewing it right now. Part of that also stems from if this is going to end up doing a correction in here like this, that we'd still have to wait for the excessive moves to start showing up in here, similar to like that, where the excessive moves do not start until that correction becomes completed, and that this is merely the escaping of the range, back testing the range, and then excessiveness into the final phases of distribution happening in here. So while wonderful to see that range get left, that's what we definitely wanted to see. What I would not have wanted to see would be yet again another retracement level that rolls over again. It just means we stay in here longer and longer. We're doing the exact phases of an uptrend that we should be doing in here, but keeping in mind for me, there's just going to be volatility likely in here, and it's not quite ready. If my thoughts are correct in that we are distributing in here, there's still more consolidation for Bitcoin before the boredom sets in, before they say, you know what, this thing's not doing anything, I'm bored. I see Doge going, I'll see Ethereum going, whatever it is for them to start moving. I think we're still just going to stick around up in here. I'm more than happy to take a surprise up in here, but I am approaching it from the mindset of thinking it's probably still just going to be stalled here for a little bit. But these are all the things we're looking for it to eventually get those bigger moves to happen. As for Ethereum, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, in the final hours of the week, it ends up crossing through the 50% retracement for Ethereum. Absolutely fantastic to see. Again, it's my rules. It's the way I operate. As we get into the third range boundaries, I have to take a little bit of Ethereum off the table. It makes me sad. I try not to get emotionally connected to any of my assets, but if there's something I'm bullish on, it's just Ethereum is clearly the heartbeat of the cryptocurrency market. Electric Capital's developer report paints that picture very clearly. Nearly everything is interconnected to Ethereum. Not everything is interconnected to each other, but nearly everything interconnects itself back to Ethereum in some way. But as we get back into here, I have to risk manage it a little bit, even though I don't want to. And unlike Bitcoin, which I have no interest at all of chasing in the event that it gets through the retracement levels. Ethereum, should it clear through the retracement levels, I would probably have to re-enter those positions. Currently, my plan is about 1/3 of my Ethereum will need to be risk managed. Essentially, from that point, all these entries were made back in here in November and December of 2022, prior to the video that we were showing just earlier in this video, right? And so by getting back up in here, getting at 200% by selling 1/3 here, I essentially take back every dollar that was put into here, and the remaining 2/3 that I have is completely free. But in the event of clearing through all retracement levels, I'd probably change my mind pretty fast on that. Just risk management, typical trading stuff, but diamond handed all the way to here. As for XRP, behaving exactly as anticipated and hoped for. We even got an extreme negative news event to come in a couple of weeks ago to mark the lows. If you recall, the expectations were to backtest the broken support, one more final flush down to the downside. That's what we did end up getting. And then, of course, we get just absolutely epically negative news. You guys know it. You get awesome news to mark tops. You get terrible news to mark bottoms. That did mark our bottom. Looking to see us be able to go reclaim back over those levels and then treat this area as a support. Over the weekend, it was able to do that. It actually came down and precisely hit it. However, my expectations are still that it's not quite ready to go. I could see this thing dragging out longer and still coming back again another time due to what I'm talking about over here on Bitcoin. In the event that Bitcoin goes flying off to the upside and I'm just wrong about it all, so be it. Let us go. However, for my thesis, I still believe we probably will come back again, just like we have seen before, try to really confirm that thing as a support. Maybe there's some more negative news to try to startle the market before we then lift off. And the thing to think about in events like this, when they happen, we'll take more of a zoomed out look in here to understand when this occurred, right? This happens with Bitcoin, right? And so I've talked about these moments before, that I was here in the market during this time. I was here through all of this. I was here through all of that and the whole ride up. It was a very negative time for XRP during that moment, because what you can see right in here with XRP during this pull down, right, from here to here, right? Think of that, of XRP from here to here. That moment, Bitcoin goes from $10,000 all the way up to nearly $17,000, and XRP goes the opposite way. Do you know what the irrational exuberance of the market was like at that point? From 10,000 to 17,000. 10,000, I'll never forget it. That's where CNBC turned on the marketing thrusters. It's clear as day to me. I remember it. It was a big psychological number for it to get broken through. Nobody ever thought Bitcoin could do it. And not only that, it happened really rapidly. I mean, we were just at $2,000 in the summer, and that number was thought to be absolutely insane for Bitcoin. And then we get to $10,000 by December. The market was absolutely crazy, and CNBC was covering it. And it was wild. You had Ethereum up. You had Litecoin up. Everything going nuts. This guy was doing that. It was brutal. But notice, we got into the distribution phase. We got to the ending phases in here, and that's when everything ended up going in there, right? And so remembering that, hey, this was also an ending phase, right? This was distribution phase. This is the top of Bitcoin right in here. The blast out happens 1 week before that moment, right? So tying in all those same ideas of distribution happening for Bitcoin, XRP being in a phase like that, it all makes logical sense at the same time of where we're at. So the things I'll be looking for, of course, will to see that we do maintain this 54-cent level as support. We're seeing other coins in the market be able to do that to make sure there's not a fundamental issue with XRP that has gone wrong. I would not want to see us go below 51 cents again. It's time to start building some supports. We have followed structures along so far. In the event that we go below 51 cents, it'll be a very, very difficult read. Otherwise, as you guys have followed for XRP videos that we've been doing, markets in the morning, YouTube videos, everything, this all just acted exactly how we had hoped it would. We got through. First test of 54 cents was successful. That's really what we would look for to have happen in here. But now it's about, consolidation for Bitcoin further, one more attempt at a test, and then off and away we go. Will we get that secondary test? I don't know, but my expectations are that we will. So I'm going to remain patient with it. I know we like to get ahead of ourselves and think things are mooning before they are, but a really, really fascinating thing to see would be if we do come back to backtest that 54-cent level, we do maintain it as support, and that support gets found after some sort of an ABC correction coming in here for Bitcoin. In the event of that, I will be making explosion on the way, epic surge around the corner, volcanic eruption of gains videos. But we need the confluence of those events to occur first. So holding off on that just now, but otherwise price has behaved well so far. Again, don't go below 51. Let's see some support building. And we have the confluence of events all occurring in here that we would be looking for. So looking good for XRP. Nice to see it get back up, and nice to see the first initial test there on 54 cents was successful, as you would hope to see. Otherwise, it's a holiday day today as I release this video. At least it's President's Day, which means the markets are closed, banks are closed, but it doesn't change the 24-hour market of crypto. But it's an otherwise exciting time in the market. Don't be fooled by my thoughts on Bitcoin of saying the end of times are near today. We've got all the elements that we're looking for over there on the altcoin market, just as you would look for. And I look forward to the coming weeks and potentially months of what we have in store. But I think all of it points to how this is a very big, complicated picture right now. This is not like in 2022 and 2023. Easy peasy, man. How many videos did we make to talk about Wyckoff accumulation to get through there? Now we're in the sign of strength. Now we're going into markup phase, right? And so markup phase, now it becomes the point of being like, all right, now it's time to start kind of thinking, where could all these tops start coming in? While most people get scared during the bottom, looking for lower, it's the same concept at the top. You get to the top, they're looking for more at the same time. We're moving into a new phase of the market. We're moving into the markup. And what we've known throughout history is that markups mark the final phase, the final excitement of the market. Whether that lasts months or whatnot, that's fine. But it's not being tricked by the idea that this is going to last 4 years, because we would need to see some evidence that this isn't going to be a problem here for the United States stock market. And as I wrote about in the newsletter that I published last week, the great market conversions of Bitcoin, stocks, and gold, all of Bitcoin's bull runs have been marked with major breakouts happening for the United States stock market. All of Bitcoin's all-time highs after multi-year bear markets come within 56 days of breaking through the all-time high. There is one circumstance in here where it doesn't happen, and it's on this one right here at the end of 2019 and early 2020, where Bitcoin does not follow along. Right now, where we stand currently right now, we are already at 67 days since the all-time high broke for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It has never taken more than 56. This is 12. This is 56. This is 33. We are already at like 67. And economically, and everything going on with the Fed, as all discussed throughout here, and with gold, the conditions of this are the same as that. Not that, or that. It's that. So if you are subscribed to the newsletter and you haven't read that yet, go check it out. There's also an audio recording in there. You could check that out over there on blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's a link in the description of this video. Otherwise, good luck out there. We'll navigate it together, just as we navigated through all the difficult times together, showing up every day. We'll be here through all of this, navigating it together. But it's fascinating to go back in time, remember what it was like in the depths of despair, and to see the convergence and the confluence of all those events come together at once. But on that note, we'll go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. As you guys may have noticed, there's no markets in the morning today. It's President's Day. I got kids home. I got most of this recorded before any kids woke up, but now I have to kind of like pause myself because they're screaming in the background at all times now. But I hope that you have a wonderful day. We'll be back on normal schedule again starting tomorrow with markets in the morning. Otherwise, I wish you an absolutely wonderful day. If you're looking for more videos from me, of course, you could check out my website over here, which is bcbacker.com. There's over 40 videos in here and 11 hours of content deep diving into the historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market and teaching you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. Even if you are absolutely brand new and you've never opened a chart before in your life, or if you're a seasoned pro, I'm certain there's something in here that you will learn. I also talk about things that are important outside of just charts, such as like emotional management and when crowd behavior sets in, the importance of tokenomics and market cap and why percentages matter over price. There's downloadable PDFs in here to supplement some of these sections in here, like Elliott wave theory, the Wyckoff method, charts, patterns, ranges, and tools. It's $39 one time, no subscription fees, right here on bcbacker.com. If you didn't catch it last week, I announced that I will be speaking at the XRP Gold Coast 2024 event in Australia. That event is from March 22nd to March 24th. There's a link there as well in the description of this video to xrpgoldcoast2024.com. And of course, as mentioned earlier, if you have not checked out my subscription-based newsletter, this is where I put a lot of research in and present my findings. We've done stuff on the developer activity, historical behavior, and how that reflected returns in the market. We've done user activity levels and how that has impacted the market and how those coins did, where you can find all of that data for yourself. We've done percentage drawdowns. We've done circulating supply inflation. And the most recent one is really talking about this big dynamic going on in the market with this convergence or confluence of the stock market, Bitcoin, and gold's behavior, and how these things I'm talking about are all backed by data right now. So check that out over here on blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's a link in the description of each of my videos and live streams to bcbacker.com, to my Substack at blockchainbacker.substack.com. And I went ahead and threw in a link there for the XRP Gold Coast conference right there. So on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.